So,
There's a memorial park upstairs.
is it what?
The memorial's upstairs, yeah.
I think so. When we have evening prayer.
Screens up there. We're supposed to have the screen up there, right? Upstairs.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go double check on that.
Okay. We are.
Session of today in terms of my talks, I would like to begin with a quote that I used from St. Francis from the last talk, and that is going to lead us into a song that hopefully will rev us up for this talk. And this is what Pope Francis said. Jesus no longer belongs to the past, but lives in the present and is projected toward the future. Jesus is the everlasting today of God. This is how the newness of God appears to the women, the disciples, and all of us as victory over sin and death, over everything that crushes life and makes it seem less human. And this is the message meant for me and for you, dear sister, for you, dear brother. How often does love have to ask us, why do you look for the living among the dead? Our daily problems and worries can wrap us up in ourselves, in sadness and bitterness, and that is where death is. This is not the place to look for the one who is alive. And so I want to invite us to listen, and if you want to sing along to this song, hopefully it will kind of get the blood flowing in us, and it's all about that newness of God found in the resurrected Jesus.
Faithful and true is the word of our God. All of God's works are so worthy of trust. God's mercy falls on the just and the right. Full of God's love is the earth. Rain down your Rain down your love,
Hallelujah. All right. That was great. Okay. So, we love it. Oops. What happened? Oh. Oh. There we go. All right. There is a book that is called The Art of Possibility. It's by a person named Benjamin Zander, and it talks about the practice of giving and aid. And Zander makes the point in his book that the traditional grading system work, C for average work, etc., it actually says very little about the work that is done. For example, when you point out to a student his or her error in doing a math problem, you're indicating something real about that person's performance. And sometimes the person gets it, sometimes they don't. The student, however, in order to get to wherever he or she got, might have worked very hard on the problem. She just got it wrong. Something useful to know so that it can be corrected. So next time, maybe she'll get it right. When that same student, however, gets a B+ because she got one wrong on that test, you are saying nothing about the mastery of the student on the material. What you are doing is comparing the student to other students who got more correct answers. And this is a really important point. Now, I'm not suggesting we change the grading system in the schools or anything like that. However, I think he makes a great point when he says most people would acknowledge that at its core, the main purpose of grades is to compare one student against another, suggesting that one is better than the other, when in fact one may just have different skills than the other. And that's what kind of the liability is. It's a system, it works okay. However, in being graded A, B, C, D like that, somebody could think that the A person is a better person than I am because I only got a B+ or worse yet, a C. That's what Zander's point is. So what he says is that grading sets us up as competitors on the solitary journey of outshining the other. And from the very beginning, it does happen that we are kind of set up on this journey of constantly competing with somebody else from childhood, suggesting that the ones that do better grade-wise than us are better than us. He tells the story, and I have heard this story before, and maybe you've heard it before too, of some call it the Duxio column story. And it's the story of a young artist in Italy. And there was a contest in the town, and there was all this marble, these marble slabs, and there was one that was very flawed. And so there was a contest in the town, whatever artist can do something with this flawed slab of stone is going to win. Well, no artist would take it on because it was too risky. You know, this is kind of hopeless. This is really an awful piece of marble, and it's very damaged. Nothing could come forward. However, a young artist by the name of Michelangelo, you may have heard of him, he came forward, and out of that flawed stone, he created the world famous still statue of the David. And when Michelangelo was asked, how did you create such a beautiful sculpture out of that flawed piece of stone? He said, oh, I didn't create a beautiful sculpture. All I did was chip away at the obstacles and I released its beauty. I think that is a wonderful story where he says that the beautiful statue inside is created by just removing the excess material to reveal the real piece of art that is within. If we were to apply that visionary concept to education, Xander says, it would be pointless to compare one child to another. Instead of all the energy that goes into the grading, the energy could be focused on chipping away at whatever obstacles are in the way of getting to the child's developing skills and mastery and expression. And the way Xander images that process is to say that that is the practice of giving an A. It is the practice of beginning relationships, in other words, from a place of respect for the possibilities that lie within the person. It transports our relationships, in other words, from a place of measurement, comparing one to the other, into the universe of possibility. And that's what this idea is suggesting. An A can be given to anyone in any walk of life. And that means that an A can be given, of course, to your spouse. Well, who wouldn't do that? Never. Or an A could be given to your children. I'm sure sometimes you don't want to give them an A. But anyway, we start by giving an A to our children. You can give an A to a table server at the restaurant, to your employer, to Deacon Tom, to your, please. You can give an A to your coworkers, to the members of the other team. When like the kid goes on the field, we give an A to the opposing team. To our parishioners, we give an A to our parishioners. How about this, giving an A to other drivers in traffic? Okay, now I've done it. Friday after work, even better. Okay. Well, here's the deal. When you give an A, you will find yourself speaking to people from a place of, when you give an A, you find yourself speaking to people, not from a place of them measuring up or stacking up about how you would like them to be by your standards. You are not beginning the relationship from a place of imagining how they are stacking up to how you want them to be. And sometimes that's how we start our relationships with somebody. Let's see if they measure up to how I think they should be or how I want them to be. When we give an A, we are interacting with people from a place that gives them room to realize themselves, to discover and to be who they are. So when we start out giving an A, we're giving, in other words, that person the opportunity of showing us who they are and revealing to us who they are. And another way of putting it is, when we give a person an A, our eye is on the statue within. The roughness of the uncut stone is put aside. The A is not an expectation to live up to. No, the A is a possibility to be lived into. Now, how in the world did I come up with this concept relating it to Jesus? Well, I think that this is how Jesus begins with us. I think Jesus begins giving us an A. He does not begin giving us an F, or a D, or a C, or even a B+. Jesus begins giving us an A. How do I know it? Well, I know it because of what he said to his disciples and what we know in the new scriptures. What did he say? He said to the disciples, "You are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world." Talk about giving an A. That's giving an A. You are the light of the world, Jesus says right off the bat to the disciples, and he says it to us. When Jesus says you are the light of the world, you are the salt of the earth, he doesn't say, some of you are the light of the world and some of you are the salt of the earth, and you'll know who you are by the end of this presentation. No, he doesn't do that. He starts from that place, and this is the other way of saying it. Jesus always started his relationships with people from a place of respect. And that place of respect that Jesus started with people, and that he starts with is us, gives us the opportunity to grow into the respect that he has given to us. It has been said that Jesus first chose the apostles, he qualified them later. And that is so true if you think about it. He chose the fishermen, and he chose, Peter and Matthew, the tax collector, and all these kind of questionable characters. And he qualified them later. He didn't choose them on the basis of what they were already up to. No, he chose them on the basis of respecting them enough to believe that they, or give them the possibility of growing into the apostles that he hoped they would be. And that is what Jesus does with us. So, Peter, beautiful example of Peter, he chose Peter. Peter, the one who says, I'm going to, I'm never going to leave you or deny you. 3 times he denies him. Right out of the gate. First thing, when things get hot or tough, he qualified Peter later on. He qualified Peter to be the rock. When after he rose from the dead, he says, "Peter, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord, I love you. Feed my lambs." "Peter, do you love me?" "Yes, Lord, I love you. Tend to my sheep." "Peter, do you love me?" And Peter kind of had the question by that time. "Yes, Lord, you know that I love you." Like, why do you keep asking me the question? Feed my sheep? Well, why? Because he qualified him by giving him the opportunity to, in the same number of times he denied him, say, "I love you." And that's beautiful. And there's stories like that we don't even know about with all of the apostles and with all of us. If you think about it, he chose you to be a deacon. He chose you to be your spouse's partner and all the rest of it. He chose you to be a minister in the parish, whatever it is. And as was said last night at evening prayer, that Grace wins, Mark? Well, grace wins. And grace winning is part of that qualifying that God's grace does with us. And as Jesus gives that opportunity for us to grow into the grace people that we are, that's what I'm suggesting we need to do with each other. Jesus sets us up to grow into the unique, good people we are, rather than to say that some of you are great and some of you are not. No A list, no B list, only one list in the Lord's eyes. And we're all on it as his beloved. Now, this is not so easy to accept as it may seem, or maybe it doesn't even seem easy to accept. It's kind of like receiving a compliment. Most of us have mixed emotions about receiving compliments. On one hand, when we receive a compliment, and when Jesus starts out by giving us that day of saying, you are the salt of the earth, you are the light of the world, well, that might make us feel really good. I mean, wow, that feels great to know that the Lord thinks that highly of me, that he says, you are the light of the world, and that he respects me so much, that he has so much confidence. That could be one answer, one response to getting the compliment. At the same time, some of us, or maybe most of us, when we receive a compliment, feel a little bit embarrassed. You ever feel embarrassed sometimes when somebody gives you a compliment? I know that I certainly have. Why does that happen? Because we don't think we really deserve it. It's kind of like if you only really. If you really knew me, then you wouldn't give me that compliment. And the worst thing of all about receiving a compliment, or maybe the most challenging, oh, if it's true, that means I gotta live up to it. Hey, that was a great homily, Father. Thank you. What am I gonna do next Sunday? That's the deal, okay? So compliments are kind of ambiguous. They feel great, they're embarrassing, or they're challenging. I gotta live up to it. Well, like it or not, Jesus gives us all an A. So my question is, what do we do? Well, first of all, what we do, I think, is we accept it. We don't shrug it off. That's what we do with compliments sometimes too. We shrug it off. No, not really. No, don't shrug it off. Accept it, receive it. We say thank you for giving us the A. Believe that it really does matter that we are around to Jesus. It really, really does matter. And what I want to say to you, and I say it to myself too, don't underestimate your importance to God and to the world. Let's never do that. Let's never underestimate how important we are to the world and how important we are to God. Because we've been chosen, and constantly we're being qualified by God's grace. I think that so many of the good things that could happen to build better lives and a better world don't happen because we sell ourselves short. And so we don't even start in the first place. And I remember I said something like this a couple weeks ago in a homily. By the way, anything that you hear today or any stories or anything, they can show up in your homilies at any time. Don't worry about that. But here's the deal on this one about selling ourselves short so we don't even start. It's like the baseball player that will never, that if he stays in the dugout and never goes up to bat, he will never strike out. He'll also never hit a home run. Or the skater who will never fall if she just never goes out on the ice rink. At the same time, she will never dazzle anybody by a beautiful dance. We will never mess up. We'll never say the wrong thing. We'll never do something embarrassing, we'll never say the wrong thing or mess up if we never say anything. But if we never say anything, then we perhaps will then for sure, we're not ever going to be able to have just the words at just the right time that somebody needs to hear from us to give them wisdom or insight or comfort. If we never say anything because we're afraid of messing up, then we're never going to have that great idea that could just change the world. Think about it. I just can't even think about how many good things have never happened because people were afraid to even start. And this giving an A idea is a way, perhaps, to help us have courage to speak and to act. Our lives can make, and they do make, a difference. Sometimes I think sometimes we sabotage our own goodness. And so we say to the Lord, as I said earlier, if you only knew me, then you wouldn't say that. Well, guess what? We all know it. The Lord really does know us. And it is the real you and it is the real me that Jesus calls salt and light. I think that we need to really stop, if we are doing it, selling ourselves short, because Jesus doesn't do that. The other thing we can do in the A that Jesus gives us is, rather than being afraid that we can't live up to the compliment, is to embrace the compliment as an opportunity to see what needs to be chipped away at ourselves to release the gift that we are, to being the gift that we are to each other. So that, remember I talked about being those best selves is the way that we proclaim Jesus to the world, or being our best selves means chipping away at the obstacles. And there's nothing wrong or to be embarrassed by that, because we got all obstacles to chip away at. It's a matter of naming them sometimes, or even knowing what they are, so we can let the Lord chip away and let others help us to release the beautiful gift that is inside. Most competition is, I think, ruinous. Why? Not all, but some. Because it puts one in an adversarial relationship with others by comparing ourselves as either better or worse. And so competition, it's great, it's fine, and it's necessary, it can build character and all those things, but it can also build adversarial relationships. So we have to, I think as adults especially, we have to watch out in terms of how we talk and what we say, that we're not setting up our young people to imagine themselves always in competition with somebody else, because that can set up that adversarial, I'm better than you, you're better than I. And sometimes it happens nowadays, especially, that there's such a drive to win, if you will, or to be the best, if you will, that the child in the process of maybe learning a wonderful skill or sport or artistic ability ends up kind of feeling suffocated in the process because it's too much pressure. And we know that from studies these days on young people. So we need to take care that we don't set up adversarial relationships through the competitions that happen in our society. Finally, with the aid that Jesus gives us, we begin our relationships, we begin our encounters, we begin our work, we begin our projects, we begin our meetings, we begin our appointments by giving others an A. We give the person room to grow and let us see their goodness. You know, I know in my life, and I really do this, if I'm meeting somebody for the first time, or if, let's say I'm having an appointment with a couple who wants to get married or whatever it is, before I go into the appointment, honestly, I say, Lord, I'm giving them an A. I give this couple an A, right from the beginning. And you know how sometimes that is not the case. Sometimes we're very judgmental first about people that come into us. And I wonder what, oh yeah, I'm sure, it's probably their parents that are pushing them into wanting to get married. You know, oh, they never, I'm sure they don't go to church. I mean, no young people go to church anymore. I bet that, and then they want me to do the wedding and I mean, that can be internal talk that goes on. I'm sure it's never happened with you, but I have to say that I've had these kind of moments myself, if I'm honest. So now, in all this, you might be saying to yourself, okay, Father Christopher, this giving the A stuff sounds great. However, what if the other person doesn't live up to the A that I give to them? And my response to that question is, that is up to them. What's up to us is to give the A, is the image of giving the person the room to show his or her goodness and beauty and all the rest of it. It's up to the person there to do that. But that has less possibility of happening if we don't begin with the A. So when we give an A, rather than starting from a place of judgment or fear or intimidation or arrogance, we start from a place of respect. And that's how all of our encounters and relationships need to begin. Giving an A makes it more likely that you will be open to discovering the statue within, if you will, the salt and the light that the other person is. And I know for myself, when I started giving the A, it really does help my attitude in how, in respecting the person who is before me. A great way to give an A every single time we are at church is, if you're preaching, give an A to the congregation right from the very beginning. Give an A to all those people in the church. And don't spend your time giving F's to all the people who aren't there. And that can happen too. So we're not there at, kind of that profound respect for the folks that are there. Deacons, give an A to the priest. And I promise you, I will give this same talk to the priests of the diocese and ask them to give you an A too. That's right from the very beginning. How's that? Now I say that with some humor, but there's some truth to that too, that on both sides. I've been around long enough to know that. So what if we all gave each other an A right from the very beginning, and everything that goes along with that? If you start by giving an A, then we are in a much better position to see who and what we really have to work with than we would have been if we began from that place of measuring the other up against our standards. You are the light of the world. You are the salt of the earth. Jesus says, now I can't give you the chapter and verse because it's really not there in these words, but he does. He could have put on there, you are the salt of the earth. You are the light of the world. I give you a name. That's the spirit of it. The only way, and we know this from our Catholic theology, is the only way that God's grace works through us is by allowing it to work through us. in ourselves and other people. God's grace is always there. And then going back to Mark's grace wins. Grace wins when we let it work inside of us. So there's a Thomas Aquinas saying that says, grace builds on nature. It means that God's grace works with what God's grace has to work with. And so this giving an A idea has everything to do with imagining the grace that's within the person or persons in front of us, as well as remembering the grace that is within all of us. Pope Francis writes, in a rather paradoxically suffering, is that the one that's on? Yes. In a culture paradoxically suffering from anonymity and at the same time obsessed with the details of other people's lives. I'm going to stop just a minute right there. The cultural obsession with the details of other people's lives, this affects us. And our culture is extra. Who's going out with who? Who divorced who? Who's in bed with who? I mean, this is what's out there in our culture. Obsession with the details, and usually not obsessed with the good details of people's lives. In a culture that is sometimes obsessed with the details of other people's lives, shamelessly given over to morbid curiosity, the church must look more closely and sympathetically at others whenever necessary. In our world, ordained ministers and other pastoral workers can make present the fragrance of Christ's closeness and his personal gaze. The church will have to initiate everyone, priests, deacons, religious and laity, into this, what Pope Francis calls art of accompaniment, which teaches us to remove our sandals before the sacred good of the other. The pace of this accompaniment must be steady and reassuring, reflecting our closeness and our compassionate gaze, which also heals, liberates, and encourages growth in the Christian life. And who do you see there in that photo with Pope Francis? Inmates. Inmates. And you can be sure, look at his smile, look at their gaze, look at that hand wanting to shake Francis's hand. You can be sure that Francis was giving those guys an A. Even some that might have done terrible things. And that day he gave them an A. And he visited them from that place, not saying it was okay what they did, but by his own desire, like Jesus's, to, at some point in our life, whatever it might be, to grow into that A. And even though those guys didn't know it that day, it looks to me kind of like they were giving Pope Francis an A too. And it probably, maybe not all of them, but maybe some of them. And that might have changed them that day. Who knows? But wonderful things happen when we start from a place of respect. Giving an A has to do with, and this is the scriptural image, removing our sandals before the sacred ground of the other. Benjamin Zander, in his reflection on giving an A, says, who knows how far that A will travel? So if you think about these reflections, this one about giving an A, and if you really do that in your next encounters, and you start from that place of respect, I mean, I'm not saying that you go into every meeting with somebody or every, I give you an A, I just wanted you to know that. I just want you to know, not a B today, no, you get an A. No. That A is you give that to the person in their heart. But that's going to affect how you treat the other person, how we treat the other person, and giving an A, starting from that place of respect, we have no idea how far that A just might travel. And you know that's the beautiful thing in ministry, is we don't know how far whatever God's grace did in that encounter or moment, how far that traveled. So we'll never really know how far that A will travel, but I can tell you it travels. I know people have given me an A many times. At times when I thought I probably, of course, did not deserve it. And knowing the place of respect. This is the thing. This is, I think that that ordained types, certainly priestly types, probably, should be the most, my goodness, as Guillermo said earlier, joyful people walking the planet, because we are given respect. And we're given respect that we don't earn. We're given respect just because of who we are. And that's the overt thing. Well, I'm saying let's give respect just to who anybody is, just because they are a creation of God. Who knows how far the A will travel? So I want to conclude my presentation today with a little story. And it's a story that has to do with giving an A. The monastery had fallen into hard times. It was once part of a great order, which, as a result of religious persecution, lost all of its branches. It was decimated to the extent that there were only 5 monks left in the mother house, the abbot and the 4 others, all of which were over 70. Clearly, it was a dying order. Deep in the woods surrounding the monastery was a little hut that the rabbi from a nearby town occasionally used for a hermitage. One day it occurred to the abbot to visit the hermitage to see if the rabbi could offer any advice that might save the monastery. The rabbi welcomed the abbot and commiserated. I know how it is said, the spirit has gone out of the people. Almost no one comes to the synagogue anymore either. So the old rabbi, picture this, the old rabbi and the old abbot, they cried together. And they spoke quietly of deep things. The time came when the abbot had to leave. They embraced. It's been wonderful being with you, said the abbot, but I have failed in my purpose to coming. Have you no piece of advice that might save the monastery? No, I am sorry, the rabbi responded. I have no advice to give. The only thing I can tell you is that the Messiah is one of you. When the other monks heard the rabbi's words, they wondered what possible significance they might have. The Messiah is one of us here at the monastery? Do you suppose he meant the abbot? Of course, it must be the abbot who has been our leader for so long. On the other hand, he might have met Brother Thomas, who is undoubtedly a holy man. Certainly, he couldn't have met Brother Elrod. He's so crotchety. But then Elrod is very wise. Surely he could not have met Brother Philip. He's way too passive. But then, magically, he's always there when you need him. Of course, he didn't mean me. Yet supposing he did, oh Lord, not me. I couldn't mean that much to you, could I? As they contemplated in this manner, the old monks began to treat each other with extraordinary respect on the off chance that one of them might be the Messiah. And on the really off chance that each monk himself might be the Messiah, they began to treat themselves with extraordinary respect. Because the forest in which the monastery was situated was beautiful, people occasionally came to visit the monastery, to picnic and to wander along the old paths, most of which led to the dilapidated chapel. They sensed the aura of the extraordinary respect that surrounded the 5 old monks, permeating the atmosphere. They began to come more frequently, and then they began to bring their friends, and their friends brought friends. Some of the younger men who came to visit began to engage in conversation with the monks. After a while, one even asked if he might join. Then another and another. Within a few years, the monastery became once again a thriving order. And thanks to the rabbi's gift, a vibrant community of life and love. My brothers and sisters, may we be those disciples that Jesus can count on, who remove our sandals before the sacred ground of the others. Thank you. So I have a song that I'd like to invite us to listen to, imagining, and really a song that expresses belief in the goodness of other people, and the goodness that happens when we listen to the Holy Spirit. You might have heard this before, but that's fine. It's beautiful, I think. Let's, as they say, take a listen.
One day I hear the laugh of children in a world where war has been banned. One day I'll see men of all colors sharing words of love and devotion. Stand up and feel the Holy Spirit. Find the power of your faith. Open your heart to those who need in the name of love and devotion. Yes, I will.
I think old Andrea and Catherine Jenkins, as a singer, were giving everybody an A. Singing that beautiful piece. So, Tom, might I take time for a couple, if there's questions in that? If there's any questions or comments or clarifications or anything, before we take our break?
Who has the question? You're going to get an A. Over here.
One slide back here, I think it's something about, I couldn't help but think of social media. And yeah, the one slide from the people.
The morbid curiosity about the details of people's
Yeah.
lives.
And that's a reality we're all dealing with,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes, and that's why my suggestion is that we counteract that morbid curiosity by a respect, starting out with respect. If we, for a person's life, and there's no place for morbid curiosity when we start by giving people an A. That's my suggestion. And if the thread through the whole retreat really does have to do with work, my sense anyway is that we're kind of it in the world in terms of hoping that things might turn around in terms of attitudes and all that. And that's what that permeating the world with Jesus is all about. And my hope is that I'm providing some concrete ways to help that happen, right? As Dorothy from the Wizard of Oz would say, in our own backyards, right where we are. I quoted that because that's one of my family's favorite movies. So.
I think a good way to summarize this would be that creating an environment and an expectation that all of the people we encounter, not only do we give them our best, but we expect the best or hope for the best from them.
Yeah, mutual, of course.
Anybody else?
Yes.
Oh, I'll get over the next.
Okay.
Father, I constantly have this question, but sometimes I can give an answer, and sometimes I can't. And especially mostly recently, those happening in the Middle East. Okay, and those kind of things, how can we give them an A?
I'm not saying that's not the point. No, you don't give A to horrific actions. But my suggestion is if humanity started out from the place of respect, what's happening in the Middle East would not be happening. That's what my point is. And I'm really glad you said that, because I don't want you to misunderstand me by saying that no matter what anybody does, it's okay. No, it isn't okay. It's horrible. And again, we talk about redemption, and we believe in redemption, and that humanity is redeemed by the blood of Jesus. Well, part of that is redemption taking place is our engagement in the world, promoting the values that he did, knowing that redemption we believe is possible. So So that's the way to put it. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
It seems to me that you're talking like on two different things. One thing, when a teacher has a class and she gets an A, she's saying that for this subject, at this point in the class, this person is at this level. But then you switch to the whole person and you say, well, give them an A. Well, you're looking at everything, not just one point that the teacher is doing. And I think instead of saying giving the person an A, you should say giving them respect, and believing that they have room to grow in that. Because we're like all A people, but some days we act like a D.
It's very true.
You know, and then once in a while we might do something good, and say, well, how did that happen? You know?
Well, let me respond this way. First of all, the danger of the imagery of giving an A is just what you said, because it's not meant to be a critique on how we do grading in schools, okay? It's an image, and remember the folks that took my homiletics class, remember the pearl. So it's the same thing, exactly. I could stand up here all day and talk about how we need to start with respect. I'm not so sure you're gonna walk out remembering that as much as you will giving somebody an A. That's the image. That's the image that I'm using to help it stick, in other words. So I'm glad you brought that up, because I don't want you to think it's about how the school systems work or anything, and it is ultimately about respect. And the symbol of the A, at least in this society, is that there's goodness and all the rest of it there. So thank you for that. So if you wanted the pearl of this talk is giving the A. That's the thing. It's the image, hopefully, that we can walk away with and carry with us. Yeah. Yes.
I really like the image of the sculpture.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we might see ourselves as already a finished, beautiful sculpture.
Yeah.
And we don't really realize that the true sculptor upstairs, God, is still working to chip away the ugliness in ourselves to become that beautiful sculpture. And we might look at others as, oh, they've got a lot of work to do, but we have to look at ourselves as
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, letting that grace win in our lives.
Deacon Modesto has one here.
I just want to make a comment. When I teach college, students, it's all about grades. So the first day of class, I always tell them, you all have an A. Now, what you do with this A from today until the last day of class is your responsibility. And I think that that's the other R that what we respect. As Christians, we all have an A, but we are responsible to maintain it so that one day we can be all together in paradise.
Beautiful. And to live into it. Live into it. Sister Kit Gray, she used to work at the Cathedral, Sister of St. Joseph. She's a wonderful woman. And she always was talking about living into things. Like if you move into a new house, you live into the new house. You begin a new assignment, you live into the assignment. And we live into the A. Y'all start out there, so live into it. Thank you, Modesto.
Hi, Father Chris. I work with young leaders, and they're always asking, how do we inspire somebody? How do we get them to be their best without wagging a finger and making them? And I'm just hearing talk after talk, they're crafting a space, a big space, a positive space for them to live into. And I think most of us have had a teacher or a parent or a grandparent or a coach that believed in us more than maybe we believed in ourselves. And we rose to that occasion. And so whether it's you put the word leadership there in a secular context, or in this case, evangelization, inviting someone into a very big space in a world that they're used to being shut down and judged and condemned and just trying to survive is a very attractive space for them to step into. And Jesus created it for his followers. And I'm starting to tie their talks together for what they're all pointing to the same thing, which is just create this unbelievably attractive human invitation into the good news. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Okay? All right. Is that Bruce?
One more, okay, one more.
One more. One more A.
We'll have to wait till midnight.
Thank you, Father Chris. Actually, we're talking about giving A's, right? And I think we give them all A's. We have had so many experiences. I have had experiences in the past. When I talk to people, this guy said, I remember one instance, a soldier, he said, "Oh, Cruz, I know you believe in God, but it's impossible for me to believe in God because I have done so many bad things. You know, I remember the things that I've done before, and I think God will never forgive me." And put in this talking perspective, if I tell them, you know, you're the light of the world, you are the salt of the earth. God, you're the most precious things, you're the most precious thing to God. He loves you. He's waiting for you. You are the top of the cream for him. Now, it becomes the second thing will be make sure that, or not to make sure, but find the right words that you will tell them, get out of that phase that you are in and come out. Believe that you are that A that God has given you. And this is what you should do. And that's what we had to accompany them and walk the way with them, be present with them. And then at one point, they will feel that they are the light of the world.
Beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you, Bruce.
Was there another one here?
No.
Okay, oh, good, you're pointing to me.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you, Father. We give you an A+. One of the things Father Christopher said, amongst all the many things, is how much the diocese really appreciates the diaconate. And we try and give our best to organizing this and to bringing the best retreat master as part of that. Thank you for that, Father Christopher. You don't have to live up to anything either, don't worry. Yeah, we appreciate you very much. So we had some good questions and we went into our break. So, but that's good. I think we're all learning from each other. So we have evening prayer and we're going to do a memorial for all those who have gone before us. So let us reflect on the A's that they gave to us and that we give to them, all those who've gone before us, as we prepare to pray and present a flower, and then after that we go into our dinner. So we can just kind of take a slow walk over there and need to use the restroom, whatever, and then we'll get going, okay? Thanks.